All right, welcome back to part 4 of the Bugatti Bolide design. And in part 3, we kind of redone part 2, and we did a good job with that one because now we have some good references to work with. So we're going to extend these surfaces here just a little bit so we can go all the way to the edge where it needs to be. So if we jump over to surfaces here and extend surface, let's extend this surface first, about that much. And then let's extend the surface here about that much. And then we're gonna go and jump over to display state 1 and get on top of this view here. And obviously we want to see through the whole thing. So something like that. And let's hide this line here. And then what we're going to do is create some sketches. First, we're going to cut this curvature out from this side, and then we're going to cut out these vents here. All right, so let's grab a spline, but first let's create a sketch on this top plane. And we have these edges here. So let's grab that spline, and then we're gonna bring this spline from this edge here, and then we're gonna bring it on down to this edge here. Obviously, if you escape, and we don't want to add any spline points on this one, and we're just gonna pull it down to about here. And obviously, we want to be straight on this area here, because that's where our windshield is going to be. So let's make this vertical, and maybe we pull it in a little bit like that, and then we got manipulate this handlebar here as much as we can. All right, so I'll pull it something like here. And that looks good to me. And that here will be straight as well. And that's the edge of that surface there. All right, so let's check that. And we're just gonna grab a line that's coming out straight here about that. All right, and then we're just going to grab a center line, construction line, and drop it straight on the middle. So mirror here and exit this sketch. And that's just going to mirror these entities. And we're going to mirror it over this sketch here, this construction line. So press OK on that. And let's jump back into surfaces and then trim out this surface here. We don't need that. All right. So we also need to trim out this vent areas here. So let's make another sketch on the top plane. So let's grab that line and let's go from here to here. And then let's grab another line, and we're gonna come up to we're gonna go past this corner because we're going to add a fillet on that one. Exit. And we're gonna drop a spline from this point out to about here. And we don't want to touch the edge with that one. So let's give this spline a little bit of profile on that area. And we're going to add our fillet on this corner. And a 10.00 millimeter fillet will be good for us. So we leave that. And of course, we want to mirror the sketch over these entities. So make sure you put that on that side, and let's mirror these entities over the other side. And we're going to mirror it over here. Okay, and then we just jump to surfaces, trim surface, and we get rid of these two here. All right, that looks good. And then let's take out these blue glass appearance, and let's have a look at our surface here. All right, so I had an Amazon package delivered. All right, so where was I? Yeah, so we cut this area out and then this area out, and then we're just gonna check our surface now. And obviously we have a lot better surface now with some good reference lines to work with. Okay, so let me bring up some pictures here so we can actually see where we're getting our surfaces from. So let's have a look at some pictures. I will get some more pictures going forward, but for now, this is one of the pictures I got here. So we got this section here, the front area, and we can see here the steepness of it, which we are quite on point on with that. And as I mentioned before, we have this in the middle section here, which is a separate surface as well. Kind of comes into this horseshoe in the front. Okay, so we have this that comes out so far, this bonnet section here. And the next thing we're going to work on is we're going to create this. We're going to create this inner section here, this side, this edge, right? So obviously it's going to be some form of well, it goes, if you look at it, it goes around like that. So that's not how we're gonna, it's a good, because it's not a standalone surface there. So obviously what we're going to work on next is going to be this area here that goes in this area. So we're probably going to create we're gonna come down with this spline all the way onto this edge here, right? And then and from there obviously we can create so we want to really create some edges here that we can work from. Okay, so I'm thinking that maybe it would be best if we created this smaller sections here, or maybe if we created this whole side here that's touching this horseshoe here, and then once we create this the area here, this spline, this 3D spline that goes all the way up here from here, then we can work from there to create this area here. All right, so let's try and create this edge here. Okay, so let's jump into our first display state in here, and then let's just jump into the top here for a second. And what we want is we want to touch onto that horseshoe here, and then we're gonna come from there to create this. We're gonna come all the way up to this corner and then create this complex shape. Hopefully we're gonna be able to do that. Okay, so Okay, so let's start by defining some corners here first. So let's get this point here first. So let's make a sketch on this plane. All right, there, and we want to get this corner here. So I'm going to grab a, but instead let's grab that one. Yeah. So I'm going to grab the point and I'm going to click on this corner there. Exit the sketch, and we're going to pull that point up. So basically, we are creating scaffolding so that we can work off of. All right. So exit the sketch. And let's go into the sketch here and grab a 3D sketch, and we're going to get some center line, construction center line. And of course, we want to be on the Y and Z, which we are. And we want to be straight here on that one. So exit this sketch. All right, so once we have that line, we can just click on this plane here and press normal to buffer just so that we get into the right view. And as we can see, this line is touching that point, touching that area which we are looking for. So it comes down here, and that point should be somewhere around here in the area. But let's check from this side as well. Okay, so that point actually, that corner is right about here, because then it leans in. So basically it comes up like that and then leans in towards that way. So let's drop our point here. Let's just make sure that we are in 3D sketch. And let's drop our point right about here. Okay, so that looks good. And if we have a look at from the front, and we are right on target with a point, maybe we can pull this point just a tiny bit down to about there. Maybe not even. Okay, so that looks good, that point. And then the next point we want is going to be well, from this point we're not gonna add any more point, because then we just going to have some issues with controlling these curvatures. So what we're going to do is jump over to a second display state here, and then we're going to grab a 3D spline, and we're gonna come from this point to this edge here. Believe it or not. Okay, that edge right there. Okay, so once we have that spline, let's go and add some um, correct character. Let's go and add some character to that spline. All right, so let's try. We will add some spline points if obviously it will need, and we will try to create this whole edge from this spline, hopefully. All right, so let's jump into the first display state. Sorry. And let's get into the view on the top plane. And as we can see, we need to pull this point down to this corner here. So maybe that's a little bit too much. So we can pull this back up a little bit, about there, and we have another look from the top. Yeah, and that's probably the right spot. Maybe just a little bit about there. That's good. All right. So let's turn around from this way. And then let's try and manipulate this spline into position. So obviously we need to add some spline points. So we're gonna add some spline points here. So yeah, obviously we need to click on that center on that point to be able for that spline point to register. Right there. One here. One here. One here. And maybe one here. Exit. And then let's click back on that line and add our control polygons. And once we have that, let's click on so we can see these triangles to show up. And let's pull these lines into position. And hopefully we're going to be able to create this edge with this one spline. Little bit profile here. And there's a corner here. There's one corner about here. I'll pull this closer, about there. And pull this down to about there. And this corner is about here. So we want to make sure that we have that corner there. And then let's, of course, it's not finished yet. So we have to fix this up from the front. Okay, so that corner, we have a corner here, and this corner is about in this area here. So we want to make sure that we do create that corner there. So it's going to be a lot of manipulation if we're doing it this way. Of course, there's other ways we can do it as well, but we're gonna try doing it this way. Of course, this needs to be a bit sharper, and things will change once we get back to the top view. So we want this slight corner here, of course. All right, and now let's have a look from the side. Obviously, it's gonna be all over the place, but eventually it will jump into position. Instead of jump into position, I'm going to say fall into position. And I don't want to, the distance between these two control points, I don't want to change much because really that determines that corner there that we have. Okay, so now let's jump back into the front. It's gonna be some changes there, of course, but not much, as we can see. So this is where our corner is, and things are starting to fall into place. Just pull this up a little bit. All right, and let's get back on the side here. And as you can see, it did fall out of place. So it's a matter of going back and forth until it actually gives it's a give and take game. I think it's a give and take game. So yeah, so a little bit more up here. And then we go back on the side. And as you can see, we are almost in tolerance with the sides and everything. Just a little bit more down on this corner here. And jump back into the front. And then we are almost on point here, which we are. So that's good. So we are good from the side and we are good from the front. So now let's have a look from the top. And we are pretty good from the top as well. So I'm not going to touch any more on that spline here, maybe later on. So let's jump back into our second display state and have a look at that spline that we just created. So our spline are looking very good. However, I want to give this area here a little bit more profile. So let's jump back into the side view here. So I want to give this profile back on this area here. Something like that. So that will also add to the wheels. So let's just make sure that we are good from the front here. And we are still good from the front. So that's good. And let's have a look from the top. And we are looking good from the top as well. So we are looking good from the all sides. So this is probably the easiest way to create edges here. Obviously, we can play more with the spline, and you can play more with the spline. It's up to you as you're doing your model. Of how long you want to manipulate these lines. The longer, basically, the more time you spend on these lines, the better. All right, so once we have this edge here, I'm going to exit. And then we have a nice edge and spline here to work with. And the next spline I want to work on. The next spline I want to work on is going to be all right. So the next line that we're gonna have to create is going to be this whole line that goes all around. So basically, this line that starts from here, it goes all the way throughout and drops down into this corner here. And then we need to create that line first in order to create this section here, because once we have that line, we can create at the surface which falls down in this area. So once we have that surface here defined, then we can create this surface here, And all of this is because we want to be able to match this small section here, because on the outside it has a convex, it's a convex surface here, but then as it goes in, it gets into a concave, right? So we really want to get that surface as accurate as possible. All right, so to create this curvature here, first we need to jump into the top view here, and it's going to start from, we're going to start this curvature from here, and it will stretch all the way down into this corner here. Okay, so let's make a sketch. So let's just have a look at this picture here. All right, so let's hide some of these lines here, which we don't need anymore, and it's just in the way. So let's hide these lines, obviously. And we can hide this line as well. And we can hide these construction lines as well. And we need that spline there, so that's good. All right. So let's have a look from the side here. So it starts from here, goes all the way down like that. And that is our defining corner, and goes all the way up like that, and then it falls down into that section, into that corner there. Okay, so let's try and make a sketch on the top plane here. And we're gonna try a sketch on sketch and see what that will give us. If that's not working, then we're gonna build scaffoldings. So let's create a sketch. It's going to be a spline, and we're gonna start that spline from here, and we're gonna come all the way down into this corner, right on that point. So exit the sketch, and then let's manipulate this line here. So I really don't want to add another spline point, but we might need to, just one here. And let's add our control polygon on that. And that line here is now a lot better looking. I don't think it's a much curvature on that corner here. I don't want to introduce too much curvature here. About that much. Okay, so that looks good to me. And now let's try and add our second curvature from this side. Okay, let's exit this sketch. And let's create that sketch here. So spline. And then we're gonna start from maybe a little bit more further back here. And we're gonna come down. Obviously, we wanna snap onto the same corner somehow. We really want to snap onto the same corner that we snapped on with the other one. So to do that, first we're going to build a scaffold line, construction line. So let's get into a 3D sketch and grab that center line and just bring that center line up from here. Of course, we want to be in Y and X or X and Y. All right. So that will give us a reference about where that point actually is, and it's right here. Okay, so now we can see things a lot better. So exit this 3D sketch. And let's get back into this sketch here, just a normal sketch. And let's grab the spline. Again, we're gonna go a little bit further back. And now we can see where that point is. So we're gonna come to about here, exit the sketch. And now we just need to manipulate this spline here. So obviously we're going to need a control point somewhere about here. And let's add our control polygon. Okay, so stay on this edge here, and then something like that. Maybe a little bit down on this area. And that looks good to me. So let's exit this sketch and let's create that sketch on sketch. Sketch on sketch. So let's select this one and this one. And our spline is right on that point, which I'm very happy about. So let's jump into our second display state here. And we have defined that important line, and it's higher than these sections here, which looks really good. All right. We can hide some of the construction lines here, which is this one here. And maybe we can hide this one as well. And let's hide this one as well. And maybe we leave this line here for now. We probably don't need it, so let's hide it. And let's keep that point there for now. Actually, we don't need it, so let's hide these points as well. All right, so we defined that line. Let's just double check that our line that we created is correct. And it is from this side. And let's have a look at it from the front. And our line is curving all the way around right on that target we were looking for. It curves all the way around. So we are looking good. All right, so let's jump back into the second display state here. Yes, so the next surface we're gonna have to create once we have that line defined is going to be this. There's a small surface here. It's almost like a spoiler, front spoiler, in order to continue. So let's create that. So let's jump to the first display state here and jump to the top. So what we want to create is going to be this small section here, which is going from, because there's a curve. So basically this surface here is going to, there's a curve here that falls down and there's a curve here that falls down. So we want to define this area here first before we can continue. So let's create that. We have the first line that defines that. Now we just have to define the second one. So let's make a sketch on this top plane. Right, then there's going to be one sketch, one spline goes from going from here to here. Okay, and we want to be kind of parallel with this one. We're also going to give this a little bit of profile, just a tiny bit. Maybe that's a bit too much, but something like that. And it will give us plenty of space to make that curvature here and here. So that's good on that. So now we just have to define the how far that goes up. So let's click on this plane here. And I would say it's this edge here. It would be this edge, but we need to see that from another view somehow. Exit the sketch. So obviously it falls in that direction, right? So it falls in this direction. So we need to create a line that falls in that way. So let's do that. Let's grab a 3D sketch, a 3D center line, and we're gonna go from this point, and we want to be on the Y and X. So Y and X, and I'm just gonna pull it towards this section here. And if you jump into this area here, so obviously we want to give this a little bit of draft because it's also acts as a downforce. So exit the sketch and grab another 3D sketch, the construction line. And the draft is going to be about this much. Exit the sketch. And let's have a look from this side. And we are almost on target. So we turn that into a line. And let's see if we can create a sketch and sketch with these two lines here. Obviously not. So let's make a sketch on this front plane. And let's convert this sketch here. All right, and now we should be able to create this line here. So sketch and sketch, it's already selected this line here, but let's deselect. And let's select the one that we just made on this front plane with this line here. And it drops it. It should drop it exactly where we need it. So it creates a little bit of draft for us. And that line is right there. It's right on that target. Okay, so let's jump back into second display state. And now we're going to add some 3D sketch, 3D spline from here to here. And then we're going to pull this out all the way to the end. And jump into second display state and get on the top. And we're going to pull it all the way to about here, where our curvature will going to start. Okay. And let's give this line a profile. So it's this line here. Edit the sketch. And there's going to be a little bit of profile in that direction up. Okay, that looks good. And now we add our second line. Obviously, we can hide these lines now because we don't need them. Okay, and then we're going to add our second 3D spline. Okay, add it from this line down to here. And let's jump onto the top. And we're going to pull this side all the way to the end. And on this side, we're going to pull it somewhere to that point. So that's where that curvature will start. It starts to curve up towards this way. All right, we're going to give this line a profile similar to the other one. So edit the sketch. And then jump into view. And we're going to give the same amount of profile just as the other one. About that much. Okay, and let's jump into second display state here. Hide this one. Hide this one as well. And now let's go to surfaces, boundary surface, and let's go from here to here. And for direction 2, let's choose this one here. Obviously, we don't want to go up all the way to that far. Just to that far. And pull this into that until we see the black point shows up. Good, that's good. All right, and then also for second, well, let's put this in here. So that's good over there. And for us also, we have to select this line here. All right, so that looks good. That surface looks pretty good. We have a good drift on it. And let's bring back that 3D line that just ran away. Just need to find that curvature. That's the one. So show that. So that's back. And our main line is still here. So that's good. Okay, so far we're looking really good here. All right, and let's have a look at the picture here. Let's jump into our first display state. Okay, so all right, so I believe that that curving down, and that shouldn't be curving down. It should be actually curving down because it will come off. It will come off from this line, but we will fix that in the next tutorial. So we're going to leave this tutorial here, and I'll see you back in the next one.